need my I need my pro card up there. I don't know where mine is.
Soon
Maybe
enough.
one day. Yeah, right.
Soon enough. Man, you're looking solid. That progress photo you sent me was crazy.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I spoke to you about it a little bit. I just had a rough few weeks
Hmm.
where things just couldn't click and I was in the way, I was getting in the way of myself.
Right.
Then I got sick. And it's like, it all kind of came crashing down. So when
Hmm.
I got sick, I just didn't follow my diet.
Yeah.
I ate like a average American for 5 days. I didn't train at all, and I think it was just kind of the reset that I needed, um, and just kind of to light that fire again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like sometimes that's needed. Like I know
Hmm.
like when we went to Disney, and that was what? That was probably like 2 months after I had finished competing. Um, Kind of the same thing. Like I didn't track anything. We were in California for like 4 or 5 days. I didn't track anything. I ate fairly intuitively. I didn't eat garbage, but
Right.
we went out a couple nights and we just ate breakfast at the hotel and but it was one of those things where it was like, okay, after those 4 or 5 days when I got back, I was like, I'm ready to dial back in. It's so funny how like you get so accustomed to eating a certain way.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's cool for a day or two to go off, but then digestion, like you feel it, your body gets to a point where you're just so much
Instantly.
more
Yeah.
receptive to everything and you just feel it.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. So that's what I went through. Um, and yeah, whenever I get sick, I don't even try to bodybuild. I'm
Yeah.
I'm just like this is my time just to be sick,
Hmm.
and this is my body telling me, hey, we got other priorities right now. Um,
Yeah, I tell my
so
clients the same thing. I'm like, if you're sick, just keep your ass out of the gym. Like
yeah,
take
dude.
take a day or two, you'll be okay, I
Yeah.
promise.
No, it was great. I even took a few days off work. I felt awful, I'll be honest. I felt very sick, but it was nice still just to
Mhm.
unwind. I ate maybe 2 meals a day, and just like that's all I wanted. I
Yeah.
wanted like one semi larger dinner and, something before bed, and like that's all my body wanted. Dude, I was looking at my fish and rice. I'm like, yeah, okay, there's no chance.
Yeah.
I'll be the most dedicated guy in the world, and I'm looking at that. I'm just like, no, dude, not doing it to myself. I already feel miserable, you know.
Right, not today.
No, exactly.
Man, I don't know, I'm trying to
Okay,
adjust something real quick. Let me,
you're good.
for some reason, oh, there we go. Da, da, da. Think we're good. Yeah, we're good. Awesome. Well, I mean, it's been a minute. That kind of everything you just talked about kind of brought us up to speed with the
Yeah.
sickness and being out for, a little bit on everything, but dialed back in. And what are your plans, if at any, for competing this year? Are you taking this year to just kind of progress?
No, I'm gonna go for a show or two.
There we go.
Ti Time frame is looking like the first show is somewhere around October 18th, and the following show is like the first weekend of November.
Okay.
They're both within an hour from me.
Hmm.
They're they're both good shows. They're run by good people.
Nice.
Um, the first one's actually in Milwaukee.
Hmm.
Um, so that one, um, it's called the Wisconsin Badger State or something along those
Okay.
lines. And then the other one is the Midwest Gladiator, which I've done multiple times now. So um, that show is like my main show that
Hmm.
I'm really just want to do well in, because that was the first show I've ever done.
Oh,
Right.
gotcha.
Yeah. So it's kind of like
The redemption show.
yeah, it's like a redemption show, and it's like my standard or like my constant variable.
Right.
Like this show is every November, and I've done it for the last 3 years. So like it's just a good, constant, consistent variable. Then I can accurately compare how I did at that show, over years and years and years. So it's nice to have one of those types of shows. Like that's what I would consider my show, right? Um,
Mhm.
so that's the one I'm hoping to do really really well in. The one in October is gonna kind of give us an idea of what's to come by November, right?
Right.
And then we'll have, a few weeks to change anything if we need to, as far as, peaking for the show and everything like that. But they're close enough to where um, it's not going to be miserable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, for
So
sure.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
just, it's funny. I just got back from the store right before you and I started texting before we jumped on. And I was talking to a friend whose mom competes. And we were talking about just the lapses between shows.
Hmm.
And the absolute, I think the most I've ever done was three. I've had a couple seasons where I did three in a row, and it wasn't too bad because they were all about 2 weeks apart. So it's like,
Okay.
you end on that Saturday night, you kind of enjoy Sunday, Monday you're back on it, and then the
Hmm.
following Monday, like you're in peak week again. So it just kind of happens like that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not too bad, right?
yeah,
Because then you're almost just reloading again.
that's really all it is. When I was prepping for Pittsburgh prior to my
Mhm.
pro card, it was miserable. Like I was battling my inner thoughts more than I ever
Oh
had before
yeah.
because the show that I qualified for was June 22nd.
Mhm.
Pittsburgh wasn't until um June, July, August 20 like ninth. So it
That's
was like,
hard.
yeah, it was like 2 months and we still had not a lot, but we still had work to do. So it wasn't like, okay, dial it back, take a week or two off, and then it was the show ended Friday night or Saturday night. We went out and had dinner Saturday. We had breakfast on Sunday.
Sure.
And then Monday, it was as if nothing ever happened, and we were
Yeah.
still just prepping for show number one.
Because what do you do in that time frame? You don't have time you certainly don't have time to build any new tissue. You certainly don't even have much time to rinse off a ton of fatigue from the
Yeah,
first prep. So really you just dive back in. And luckily you were in a position where, you said you had some work to do, but it wasn't something like you had to strip off a ton more
yeah,
fat, right? Okay.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
really, and,
So
and really, all I remember, all we did, we actually increased food and dialed back
yeah.
cardio a little bit. Let my body kind of de-stress, and it
But
just was
sometimes
clicking. It was clicking from
sometimes
there.
that's worse, dude. Because that hunger, all of a sudden you add a little bit of food. You know this.
Oh yeah.
I tell my guys this all the time. They're like, "Oh, thank goodness you added food." I'm like, "Don't thank me yet. You're about to be ridiculously hungry."
Yeah. And my loads went from we found that loading on very high carb and moderate protein with low fat works really well with me. But
Yeah,
having that little to no fat in there, it I
not
I was
enough.
just hungry all
Yeah,
the time. Like
that's
I
funny.
used to
That
look forward to load days, and then it almost was one of those things where it was like I don't even want to because I would be eating more food, which was satisfying, but on the flip side of it, the hunger was going through the roof because my body was
yeah,
just burning through that carbohydrate and
yeah.
protein so fast.
That's funny. My load days were always worse for me deep in prep
Hmm.
because, of course, it's so much fun. It's exciting. The food is good, everything like that. It's beneficial. But like, I would eat a meal, and within an hour or two, I'm like, like getting anxious. Like, I have to eat again. I'm starving. And like,
Yeah.
it just like that feeling of just being ravenous.
Hmm.
um, and then you don't want to take it out on food because you'll make yourself sick.
Yep.
and there's always about finding that balance and having that discipline still. Um, so it is challenging, but it's also a good time, like you said. Um, but yeah, that's always funny because you think more food is going to calm everything down, and 9 times out of 10, it makes everything a lot harder.
Absolutely. Well, that takes us into a really good transition kind of into our
Yeah,
questions. And real quick, this is a really long intro to say welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bar. It's been a while, but I'm your host,
yeah,
Devon Grogans. We got co-host Tommy John, and we're excited to be back. It's been a bit of a hiatus, but we're here. We got some really good questions. We actually got a ton of questions over the last
yeah.
couple of
These are good.
months,
Yeah,
or month and a half, however long it's been. But we got, I think you sent me like five or so that we're going to try to get through
yep,
today.
yep.
Um, and then it's nice to have a good backlog. So if you guys have any questions, leave them in the chats below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Or you can DM us your questions as well, and we'll be happy to get through them. But this is everything that happens outside of the stage. There's plenty of stuff that you guys can find and great areas to go find, the gear talk, the training talk, and we'll do a little
Yeah.
bit of that. But this is beyond all of that. This is the backside,
Hmm.
behind the curtain. So
Yeah,
um
there's so many good guys out there making content about how to train, about how to use gear and supplements and blood work and all those things, and all that stuff's really good. Devin and I don't want to speak on that because there's already people very good at doing it. We don't want to regurgitate just what they're saying. We want to create our own style of content, something that's digestible for everyone, and it's not just repetitive things about do this, this, and this, and then because all the other guys are doing this, this, and this. We don't want to talk about that stuff. We want to talk about family. We want to talk about all the things that give us the ability to be able to do those other things like bodybuilding. So, um,
Absolutely, well said. But
yeah. So
yes,
the first one isn't really a question. They just said skip loading. So they were just curious of all things skip loading, and probably not something you and I want to touch on right now. We touched on it a little bit in the intro.
yeah,
Um, it's something we'd really like to have, you know, skip on the show with us.
yep,
Um, and then we can get into very specific things about skip loading. If you just want
absolutely,
a general understanding of it, it's a set time frame of higher caloric meals to help reset everything, help get you leaner. It's often used in contest prep. That's just very basic idea. It's like a high carb day kind of concept. So yeah,
yeah.
we don't. I don't know about you, but I don't think we really need to dive into details on that.
No, because the funny thing is, and I will say this, I will say what it's not. It's not a gorge, eat everything you can in sight. There are variables based on the person that is loading
Yes.
and depending on the situation. People think it's just pizza and burgers and this and that, but it comes down to where that person is at, what their body needs, and what they know their body will be able to
Yes.
handle. And I'll just say this before we kind of move on is my very first prep with Skip, I was loading on everything, you name it,
Me
donuts,
too.
cookies, pasta,
Me
pizza.
too.
And I was running through it. This last prep when I got my pro card, it was poke bowls, it was chicken and rice with mango or blueberries. It was a much different look because my body was not responding to what I was able to load with in the past. So we had to keep it a lot cleaner. And like I said, fats had to come way down to really
Yeah.
get the results that we had. So it varies
It,
not only person to
it,
person, but situation to situation. So
yeah.
that's just one
Yeah.
thing I do want to say because I know a lot of people have a misconception that it's just like eat any and everything.
Yeah, and that's part of the the trouble to understand skip loading is part of it is intuitive,
Hmm.
and you are in the driver's seat with set parameters.
Yep.
So you need to be able to make responsible decisions and keep your emotions out of it. Some people just aren't not able to do that. Let me ask you this. We can touch on this a little bit. I'm okay with it. Do you skip load your clients?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
And do
do
you
it.
skip do you
It's
skip
a
load all of them?
modified version of
Yeah.
it follows a lot of the same principles of
Yep.
what true skip loading is, but it is a
Mhm.
little bit different in how I implement it. I will say that.
And do you do it with every single one of your clients?
And everyone, no, I can't
Exactly.
honestly
Okay.
say that I do.
That's what I was hoping you would say. I didn't know
Yep.
for sure, but that's what I was hoping you would say. Um, it's not for everyone. And that doesn't mean that it wouldn't work for everyone. Um, but there's individuals who have tough relationships with
I
food.
was just going to say, when it comes to self-regulation and the clients that I know have a difficult time with that, I do not load them. I will give them specific
Prescribed.
meals to eat. Yes.
Yes.
So, hey, I
Yep.
want you to take meal five, which is already, a half cup of rice and, you know, protein. And I want you to double your carbohydrates and add, X amount of calories from fat, whether that's, and then I'll usually within that say, it can be avocado oil, olive oil. Like I'll give them kind of some options
Yeah.
that they can choose from, but it is much more prescribed than an open invitation, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think Skip would disagree with any of that. I know for a fact that for some of his clients, he does not give them the reins. He prescribes
Hmm.
macros for their loading.
Yep.
For some of my guys and girls, I prescribe their macros for what we call skip loading.
Yep.
Um, and some of them don't trust themselves. Good. I'm glad they know that. I'm glad they're understanding that, Tommy, I cannot have the reins. I will just go crazy.
Hmm.
Good. Let's put together a plan then. Um, some of them just want to know exactly what to eat. Totally fine. Let's just program that in then. So yeah, it's still skip loading, but sometimes it's prescribed skip loading. And
Yep.
then sometimes I give certain clients set parameters, like I don't want you eating more than 15 minutes. And I don't want you waiting 6 hours in between meals
Right.
so you can try to get 10,000 calories in.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think some of those things were worth touching on, and then you go ahead, you pick our next one for us.
Yeah, we'll roll through the list, and then that way,
Yeah,
whatever, if we don't end up making it through all of these, then we can just pick up where we last left off. But
sure.
let's see. So, would love to see us touch on and talk about the importance of finding partners that you match well with and how to identify whether or not you're compatible based on lifestyle, given how strict slash atypical bodybuilders can live. Um, lot to unpack there. So, uh, how important is it to find somebody that you match well with, and how to identify whether or not you're compatible based on lifestyle of bodybuilding? Um, I will say this. When I met my wife, I was not a bodybuilder. I was just in a position where I was wanting to live a healthier life. That then
Mhm.
led into me bodybuilding. Um, and it's my wife hates bodybuilding. I'll just put it that way. She flat out she hates it. She
That's
hates
okay.
it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um it was cool the first show or two. After that, it was more so the leniency in letting me do something that she knew I enjoyed.
Yep.
Um I think that this is also what creates a divide for a lot of people. If you are already with somebody and you're competing or you're bodybuilding, um, I think that is a little bit easier than
They
when you
they
all of,
they don't know the difference.
yeah, because that
They,
is, you are still who they met. You
mhm.
you are not somebody who slowly adapted or completely changed. Um, and so I think that's where things get a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, and that's so the first part of the question, the importance of finding partners that you match well with. I mean, what could be more important than that?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what finding a partner is. That's what that means. That's how that's defined. There's no alternative to not finding a partner that you match well with.
right.
So I just want to get that out of the way. Um, you should match well with your partner. They should be your friend. Um, they should be your best friend.
Yeah.
You guys should have fun. You guys should even disagree. You should do all of those healthy things that partners that match well do, right?
And I think
Um,
real quick, I just want to touch
mhm.
on you
Yeah.
said you should disagree. And I love that because I think very often, a lot of times I see this in younger couples,
Mhm.
is they think that they found the one because they everything is so perfect in the sense of they like the same things. They never argue. You should have arguments. You should have
Yeah.
different it's great that you guys like to do a lot of the same things, but you should also have different hobbies because there's going to be times where it's healthy to do your own thing sometimes, but it's nice to be able to share common interests as well.
Yes.
But when
Yeah.
you agree with somebody on everything, is as great as that seems from the jump, it's a recipe for disaster long term.
Because that one big disagreement is coming down the road, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Here's one thing that I wanted to touch on that you said about being your own individual person, and you should each be your own individual people, and together you're just magnifying each other. You're just
Yes.
you're better together. So this is funny in my wife and I's vows, and we didn't plan this, so it was almost laughable that we both said it, and it was at like the exact moment in our vows, like towards the end.
Hmm.
And basically our joke, like basically since we've been together, is we always kind of cringed at the saying of people saying I cannot live without you. And we always thought it was kind of just cringy a little bit. And so in both of our vows, like mine specifically stated, um, I told her I can, in fact, live without you, and word for word. And I said, but every day I will choose not to
I love that.
because I'd rather live with you, right?
Yeah.
And hers was something so close to that, and it was just
Hmm.
funny because it wasn't planned or anything, um, and it was important for me to hear her say that as well because I want to know that individually she's strong and capable on her own. She's not codependent on me and vice versa, right? I'm not codependent on her, but together we're just going to be a badass team, right?
Exactly.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Um,
Pick up where she falls off and vice versa.
100%. As far as your compatibility based on lifestyle given how strict bodybuilding can be. I don't think this determines your compatibility with a partner. What Devon and I choose to do as far as bodybuilding, that's our choice. And we try our best to remind ourselves, and I don't mean to speak for you, but we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
um, we remind ourselves that it is our choice. It's not our family's choice. We
Hmm.
don't take it out on them. We try to make it as least impactful in a negative way as we can because our family did not sign up to bodybuild. We did. That's our choice. We weigh out our food. We eat specific foods. And that's just the way it is. Um, if you're with a partner that just can't understand that, maybe, just maybe, it might not work. I don't know for sure. I think you would know that very early on, would you say?
I would agree, especially with how, I mean, if you want to use the term strict, I would say really more so how disciplined it
Hmm.
requires you to be. Um, I think that is hard for a lot of people. And like you said, I don't necessarily think that it's going to be the compatibility side of things as much as it is finding common ground.
Hmm.
If you are dating somebody that loves to go out drinking all the time, and you are somebody that is bodybuilding and living that lifestyle and you don't drink often, then yeah, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult.
Hmm.
Um, so those types of areas it will play a role. But to your point, this is something that we choose to do. So don't necessarily expect to find somebody that is going to, I don't want to say not be okay. I don't know. It's tough because yeah, I think the compatibility thing is really just going to come down to you also don't want to, like I know a lot of people that compete together and are miserable. It's
Oh
great
yeah,
if you guys
dude.
find each other through that avenue,
No, it's
but it
wild.
but yeah, but I don't see more often than not, it usually causes issues than it does.
Yeah,
Whereas one person is a bodybuilder competitor. Now, if you guys both just like living healthy lifestyles and she can appreciate that, that's kind of
of
where my wife's
course.
at now. We
Yeah,
used to go
yeah,
out, we used to do the drinking thing, we used to, and then it slowly just became less and less. And now,
yeah,
although she doesn't bodybuild, she tracks her food to a degree. She's
exactly.
not
Yeah,
to the degree that I do, but she also doesn't have the same goals that I do. She just wants to be healthy, fit, and have fun. And like yesterday, she had a couple brownies and some wine when, my mom stopped by and
exactly. And did you get mad at her?
absolutely not.
Like,
Yeah.
so that's the thing is that that's similar to my wife. She doesn't compete. She never has an intention to, and that's totally fine. But she does live a healthy lifestyle. She understands the concept of competing, just from being through it so many times.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think it's um I here's one thing I'll add to this whole thing. Um, as bodybuilders, talking about being strict and being so strict, and and I heard you say it too. You're like strict, right?
Yeah.
Because there's things that we should be able to accommodate them for, right? Um,
Absolutely.
I had one client, Devon, and he messaged me and he's like, "Oh man, my girlfriend and I are fighting." I'm like, okay, you because we're therapists, we're not just coach, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's part of the game. So he's like, my girlfriend and I are fighting, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Why?" And he's like, "Well, she worked until 4:30. I got off work at 3, and I went to the gym without her instead of waiting till 4:30." And I said, "Well, why didn't you wait till 4:30?" And he goes, "Well, I always train at 3:30 after meal 3 or 4." And I'm like, "Brother, man, like meal 3 is chicken and rice, meal 4 is chicken and rice. Like, why didn't you just train after meal 4 and, you know, save yourself a fight with your girlfriend, which now potentially raised cortisol, which now you probably lost gains.
Right.
Instead, it was more important for you to train after meal 3 because that's what you're used to." So that, in my eyes, is a situation where that could have been avoided, and that could have been this, strict bodybuilder being a little too strict, would you say?
Oh, yeah. And that's, I mean,
And
and it's hard. Like, I think for what we do, it's very easy to become so robotic. There's times where I really have to check myself where I'm like, okay, does it really matter, A, when I eat this meal, so long as I eat it by the end of the day,
I
and
was gonna
B,
say that.
if I train at 2 instead of 3:30, or if and I'm not perfect at it by any means, but yeah, there's a lot more flexibility that we can give to win the battle,
Devin, how
or
many
to
how
win the
how
war, I should
how
say.
many how many times have you looked at the clock and your last meal was 2 hours and 55 minutes ago, and you're like, "I gotta eat in 5 minutes. I have to, but I'm in this car and I'm 10 minutes from home, and I'm just gonna pull over and eat because I have to eat 3 hours away from my last meal." Like,
Right?
that's how crazy we can be. And I say we, and I mean me. I
Yeah,
mean me. I'm talking about me because that example is me. Literally, I've been in a situation where I ate meal three and 2 hours, 55 minutes is rolling around. I'm just getting anxious. Like I have to eat in 5 minutes. It's like, Devin, what if I ate that meal after 3 hours and 20 minutes? Would anything at all change?
absolutely not.
I don't think so. Did
No.
I cause more damage by stressing about the difference between a 15-minute car ride, pulling over on the side of the road, running into my cooler in the trunk, eating my chicken and rice in a gas station parking lot because I could not stomach the thought of being 10 to 15 minutes late to meal four?
Yep.
And that's a true story on multiple occasions. And that is the type of stuff where being that strict, in my opinion, is going to cause problems in a relationship if you're so incredibly strict with minor things like that. So I just wanted to add that story because I
No,
know
that's a good point.
someone's going to relate to that one.
And I think it also varies on whether or not you're in prep. I mean, not to say that it's an excuse. Yes, when you're in prep, there are things you need to be a little bit more uh, time sensitive with. But
Without
at
a
the
doubt.
but at the end of the day, 15 to 20 minute swing on your meal is not going to make or break it. And if you're not deep into your prep, then yeah, there really is no excuse. You're not going to miss out on any gains by training one additional meal. If anything, you're probably going to have a better lift. But
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
All great points. Let's see. This next one is fear of blurring visuals when starting to push food. Pretty much getting over not being shredded, and the mental blocks that come with it. So,
So the person that asked this for context, they were just extremely lean. Like we're talking single digit lean, like inside out peeled. Let's just call them that.
yeah,
Um, and as they start pushing food up, obviously you cannot live in that body fat range.
yeah.
So they're asking about how you and I psychologically get over that or dilute that concept. I want you to go first because I have my answer and I'm curious if yours aligns.
Yeah, so it's something that I used to fight hard with. I used to think that I had to try and stay close to stage lean. My body type is not one that even wants to be lean. My body will fight me to get back to um, kind of the standard weight, if you will, that it enjoys, which for me is about 215 to 220. Even coming off this last prep, uh, I think just slowly reverse dieting, I got to about 210, 212. And as I was slowly increasing food, my weight just kept pushing up. And it was clean food. I wasn't loading at all. But my weight wants to just be in that 215, 220. But it for me, the thing that has really helped over time, I mean, I've been now competing on and off for 10 years. Um, the thing that really helps me is switching gears to not thinking about what I look like as far as how lean I am, but more so how good is my performance in correlation to the current amount of body fat that I have. Like, yes, I don't want my stomach hanging over my pants, but at the same time, am I sacrificing lines and making solid gains in the gym? And right now, like I look at myself and I'm like, yeah, I could be a little bit leaner. I'm sitting about 220 pounds, but I'm also back squatting 495 pounds for 8 reps. So is it really worth the extra couple of pounds and few lines that I'm going to see? Or am I going to be making better progress by pushing more weight and having better gym sessions than going in looking shredded, being tired, and fatiguing early?
I'm so excited about this because I don't have to say anything more because I had a feeling we were on the same page here, but yeah, after shows and things like that, after a stage of getting really lean, it's like okay, let's get this food in. I cannot wait to train.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for the training performance increase. I can't wait for those nasty, filthy pumps when
Hmm.
the skin is just splitting. Um, and like, dude, oh, your glute lines are gone. Like, I don't care. My
Yeah.
workout was insane. And like, it's an easy shift for me because, like you said, leading up to what's required to get stage lean starts to become miserable.
Yeah.
It starts to become truly miserable, and it's something we all enjoy in a sick way, but I enjoy it just as much getting out of that phase and
Hmm.
back into a phase of why I started all of this to begin with, and that is training. Training is the core of my everything. There's no bodybuilding without training. There's no nutrition without training. I would not eat like I do if it didn't make my training better.
Yep.
I would not use supplements if it did not make my training better. And the look is just a side effect of being awesome at everything else.
Yeah.
The
It's
look is it's just a side benefit of what comes with it. So the look is important when you're getting ready for the stage. Everything else is about training and
hmm
in getting better. Of course, growing, getting bigger, everything like that is involved. But if you make training your core focus, everything else needs to fall into place so that that training is better. In return, you're going to look better, you're going to feel better. Diet Staying on diet's going to be easier because you're just excited about the next workout and you know you need to fuel it to recover from it and to have energy for it. I'm literally I knew you were going to say it too, but I'm just so glad you did because that's how I get over that little phase, and it happens to all of us. Like,
oh yeah.
because, dude, that one day on stage, you look sick, or even the week leading up to it, you look sick. It is awesome. It is the coolest thing. We all love that stuff, but we all love training too. And guess what? Guess which phase lasts longer?
Yeah.
Right? We're a bodybuilder one day out of the entire year, assuming that we're doing one show a year. Let's say that. You're
Hmm.
literally only a bodybuilder when you're on that stage posing for those
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Well, and
That,
it's in the name,
yep,
body building.
right.
It's not constant cutting or
Yeah,
always deficit or always shredded. It's body building. And you
yeah,
can't build the physique you're going to showcase if you're not adequately eating and fueling that
yeah,
body.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I think that covers that. And so to conclude it, how do we get over the fear of blurring visuals? Well, we just get with the ability that we know our performance is going to be awesome, and
Exactly.
we just focus on training because that is the core that of all of this stuff.
Yep. No, I love it. All right. Next one is potential times and uses for psychotherapy and self-care strategies regularly implemented in bodybuilding, personal and what you've seen in others, meditation, journaling, any specific strategies.
Yeah. The potential times to do this is every day.
Yeah, I was just gonna say every
Yeah,
day is
yeah,
I would agree. I
yeah.
think that
There's
there's never a wrong time for self-care, and I think
no.
coming up with a strategy that is built into either a morning or a nightly routine really helps with the implementation side. And when it comes to bodybuilding, again, like you said in the first question, is it's a part of who we are.
Yeah.
So we take bodybuilding and make it what we do.
Hmm.
And by doing that, it just becomes one more step within that process. Just like you get your food, you get your nutrition, you do your journaling or whatever it is that helps with that sort of self-care strategy
Hmm.
that works best for you. For me, um, I do it while I'm in the shower. I do my fasted cardio, then I
Yeah.
come in, I take a shower. I'll usually, I mean, I'm not going to turn it to like freezing cold, but I'll turn it to cold er,
Yep.
and I just let it hit my head, and I will sit there, and for me, I pray. I
Hmm.
just go through like what I need to do for the day. I
Hmm.
do some gratitude, so just, really think about all the things that I'm blessed to be able to do, one of which is be able to bodybuild, be able to eat the food that I eat, be able to have a roof over my head. Like I just think about all these things that a lot of people don't have. And then I go through prayer, and then I really just structure, okay, today, these are the five, for me, it's the five most important things. I need to do one, two, three, four, and five. That's, what I need to get done. And then I go about my day. But that's an everyday thing that I've learned
Yep.
to build in. And it works for me.
Yep. Yeah. Mine is nearly identical to that. Um, the only other thing that I will do, so a lot of it I do um, in the mind and just thought process, like you're talking about,
Mhm.
gratitude through just like a meditation. Oftentimes it is in the shower because that's the a lot of the times we only place we have our little
Yep.
space, our little sanctuary for that little bit, right? So it's either in the shower or the sauna. um, the one thing I do is an actual gratitude journal. And there's a lot of good apps on the Apple Store and things like that that you can download. It is more beneficial in my opinion to use a pen and paper and actually just write these things down. But the apps are kind of cool because one, it's 2025, and two, because they prompt you with giving you ideas on what to write. So, for example, Devon, name one thing in nature today that made you feel at peace, and then you can think about your day, and you can think about that exact prompt, and you didn't have to come up with that on your own.
Hmm.
So when you become better at these things, you can prompt yourself, like, what is three kind things you did for someone today?
Yep.
Write those things down. The other, and I don't do this a lot anymore, it's something I might get back to, but I used to write down fears and worries at nighttime.
Mm.
I would write down things that terrify me, a life that I am terrified of falling into. Almost like describing your own hell would be the best way to put that. And
Right.
and I would write those things down before bed. So then those thoughts are somewhere in your brain. If you can get them out of there before you go to sleep,
Hmm.
potentially it might help you sleep better. Um, my new strategy now, thanks and no thanks to AJ, is doing cold plunge.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's something very new to me. I can't speak a ton on the benefits yet. I've been doing it consistently for about 2 weeks, every single day now. It is something I'm doing every day. Um, there is an extraordinary sense of calming once you get past the initial burn
Hmm.
of the cold water. Um, Something does let loose. And at this point, I'm to the point where I can sit in that tub and start to do some of my meditation and gratitude thoughts in there. So that has been a new strategy, but that's mostly what I have for that. As far as self-care, I think things, let's talk bodybuilding related. I think things like muscle work
Yep.
at least once a month is important. Chiropractic visits can be very important as far as like actual bodybuilding stuff. I think that stuff's good. And then, I mean, bodybuilders are pretty good at self care. It's like kind of all we do. We
Hmm.
eat the good food, we do the exercise, we do the cardio, and a lot of that is, all accompanied with self care. So,
Yeah, I would agree. All of those things, and then also taking time for rest. I see, and I work with a lot of people where they just want to go, go, go. And a lot of times self-care is pulling back. I had a conversation with a client who is a collegiate athlete, and I see this very often in athletes because I was the same way,
Mhm.
is when things aren't going at the rate we want them to, oftentimes we think more, more, more. We need more training. We need more cardio. We need more, more. And this is the one thing in not really life, but this is the one area in exercise, fitness, health, where more does not always equal more. A lot of times it equates to less. So
Mhm.
I always
Mhm.
give the example to a lot of my, especially younger clients like this, is I get it from an athlete perspective. Like you're used to doing more and seeing more results. But this is like a bow and arrow. You got to draw it back in order to propel forward. So we need to actually pull back. I mean, this kid was doing, oh man, it was three sessions of hour and a half sparring at a local boxing uh spot, and then 3 days a week he was biking for an hour and 45 minutes to two
Oh my
hours
gosh.
yeah, in zone 2 to 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and minimum 3 days, usually 4 to 5 of weight training. And I'm like, we got to pull you back on a lot of this. Your body is
Yeah.
so taxed right now
Yeah.
that the reason we're
Yeah.
not really seeing the results that we should be seeing is because your body is so stressed between all the different modalities you're putting it through. So
Yep.
to bring it all back full circle, self-care a lot of times too is not only doing the muscle work, not only doing the other things, but it's also knowing when to pull back and take a day or two off or a week off.
Yeah, one of the best ways I've ever heard anyone describe this. I was talking with Dave Tate at the Train Your Ass Off event, and he said he's worked with all calibers of athletes in the entire world, right?
Mhm.
Um, and he said every single one of them will tell me, Dave, I will do whatever it takes to be the best in the world. And he said,
Mhm.
whatever it takes. And they're like, yeah. They're like, I'll do whatever it takes. He goes, would you take a month off training? And they look at him like, what are you talking about? He's like, what if that's what it took? What if taking an entire week off training is what it took? What if pulling back on the training volume and intensity is what it took? He's like, would you still do whatever it takes? And they're just mind boggled. They can't understand.
Mhm.
And he's like, sometimes that's what's required. So are you really willing to do whatever it takes? Are you willing to pull back on your training and take the risk up front because it seems like a risk that it's going to pay off on the back end? It's like a weird investment, right? It's like, I don't know if this thing's going to pay off, but it always does. You and I both
Yeah.
know that. You and I have both pulled back training to 3 days a week or even less. And we've seen the benefit from that. So that's something to keep in mind for our guys and girls out there who say they will do whatever it takes.
I love that. That's a great way to end that question. Let's get one more in, and then I got to jam out, but we still got a good amount for the next time. Um, let's see, potential times and uses. We had that one. Interested to hear you guys talk about specific food selections when it comes to really pushing calories up. I think, let me see. We might save that one. Let's touch on previous. Love hearing more strategies. Lifestyle, also maintaining healthy spouse relationships.
I
Uh,
have one for you.
all right, let's do that one. We'll save the rest of
Th-
these for the next one.
This one you don't have in your notes
All right,
because I wanted to hit you with it raw and just see exactly how you answer it with no ability to prep for it.
all right.
So I want to hear your difference in how you define addiction versus passion.
Mm. I would consider it's a fine line. I think anything that you, if I were to, all right, I would say this. passion would be something that you feel so strongly for that you love doing it. It's, it doesn't feel like work. That is passion. I think the time that it becomes addiction is when it's something you can't walk away from.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, if you get upset by the day, by the fact that you have to miss a session of training and you're not in prep, um, I think that's addiction. I think if you are going out of your way to make things seem better than they are, that's oh, I only train 4 days a week.
Mm.
Okay, but I'm also at the gym, not me personally, but same person will also be at the gym 2 hours, three
Hmm.
hours. And I
Hmm.
don't know why, I don't get why my wife's so mad. I'm only at the gym 4 days a week. Oh, how long are your gym sessions? Oh, I roll in about 4 and then I get home about 6:37. Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I think that the real big thing again is coming down to having difficulty making changes.
Hmm.
Anything that you become essentially a slave to, you are addicted
Hmm.
to. If
Hmm.
something owns you to the degree where you said, "Hey, instead of training 5 days a week, let's drop down to three," and that's just not even fathomable to the point where you get upset or something in your day goes left and now you can't go to the gym or your gym session is much shorter than what you anticipated, um, then I think all of those ride the line of addiction. If you were to take it outside of the gym space, though, I would just say anything that you cannot walk away from,
Hmm.
um, which even then is hard because passion, it's hard to walk away from something too. But I would say anything that yeah, I would have to say anything that you can't walk away from would be considered an addiction.
Yeah, and I love all your answers, and I wanted to hit you with this without
I love
any
that.
way for you to prepare for it, because it's something I've had a lot of time to think about.
Hmm.
Um, it's something I'm I've been thinking about since I was a kid, as someone who has an addictive personality,
Same.
very, very easily addicted to things and whatever. Um, so I wanted to hear what you had to say. And here's what over the years I've started to conclude. Um, the first one will be you never have to justify passion.
Yep.
There's no justification for passion. You will always have to justify an addiction.
Hmm.
You'll always have to defend it, and there will always be some sort of feeling like you need to let people know why you're doing it and why you can't stop doing it. There's justification no matter what. Addiction will always take away from your life, and it will never add to your life. You'll always be a slave to addiction. It's about control, and the reason people have addictions is because of a lack of control,
Hmm.
and they now have something they can control, so they want to hold on to it ever so dearly, right? Passion, if you're passionate about something, you don't need to desperately cling to it because you're going to keep coming back to it,
Yep.
and it's not going anywhere. And you don't have to justify that. You don't have to justify that it's not going to leave and that it's not going to be there the next day. Or if you take a week off, it's not going to be there. That's passion. Passion enhances your life, it
Hmm.
adds to your life, it creates more opportunity um, for life. Addiction does the complete opposite, but they feel like the same thing in the moment. And it's incredibly hard to distinguish which one is which in the moment. Why? Because if you are addicted, you're going to justify why it's passion, and it's a revolving door that you're stuck in trying to answer, right? And yeah, so what I've concluded for myself is passion doesn't need justification. It's an add-on to your life. It's an enhancement to your life. It's never a chore that seems compulsive and that you can't get out of it at any moment, right? You
Hmm.
know, people can quit bodybuilding at any moment, but people that are addicted to it can't. And they'll justify that as passion. And I don't think it's the same thing. So I was just super curious on how you would define those things, because I knew you had an addictive personality because you're an athlete. You've always been an athlete, and we are the types of extreme people who have an addictive personality. But on the same token, we're also some of the most passionate people. So the waters get muddy,
Hmm.
and I was just so curious on. I just needed to talk to someone about it because I haven't talked to anyone about this yet.
Hmm.
And I wanted to save it for you because our views align on so many things that I was curious how you would answer it, and you answered it just as I have been thinking about it for myself for multiple years now. So yeah, I was curious. Thanks for playing my game with
Yeah.
me. I
No,
figured I'd drop a challenge on you.
that's a good. I loved it. I loved it. I'm gonna have to come up with a good one for you on the
Sure.
next time we
Yeah.
get together.
Yeah.
No, I think you hit some great topics. Man, it felt good getting back and doing this again. So I'm excited to get this thing rolling. Um, I guess that does it for this episode because I do got to
Yeah.
run. But
Yep. No problem. We're all good. We got a
awesome.
lot done. It was a lot of fun, and thank you guys for watching.
Absolutely. Tommy, real quick, tell the people how they can get a hold of you if they're interested in training.
Sure. TommyJohnCoaching.com, Tommy John Coaching on Instagram, and then you can find me as a moderator in the Chase Irons Discord group.
There you
And
go. And then
then
anybody
how
that
about
may
for
be in,
you? Yep.
oh yeah, anybody that may be interested, you can catch me on Instagram, dgrow39. You can go to the website nxtlevel-training.com or Devon at nxtlevel training.com as well. So all of those work. This does it for another episode of Beyond the Bar, and we will catch you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.